Apologetics. How can I know? Session 8. The persuasive evidence of biblical prophecy. For review, kinds of persuasive arguments. Apologetics is making a reasonable defense for our faith. As 1 Peter 3:15 says, always being ready to make a defense. That's the word apologia in Greek. To everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with gentleness or meekness and reverence. We have looked at logical arguments for the existence of God based upon reason and observation from the world around us, experiential testimonies that support the existence of God, and historical evidences that authenticate the record of God's working in the lives of people and in the events of the Bible. Logical arguments for the existence of God. We looked at the ontological argument, which is the highest thought you can think. The highest thought you can think is God. Therefore, God must exist. The argument from motion. As we look at the world around us, things are in motion and everything has been moved by something else. So there must be an original unmoved mover, which would be God. Then the argument from causation, that everything has been caused by something else. Therefore, there must have been a first cause, which would be God. The argument from design. The world around us speaks of incredible design, everything from the geometrical shapes of crystals to the intricacies of a cell to the broad expanses of the universe. We see the balance and the arranged detail of ecosystems. All of these things speak of intelligent designer, God. The argument for morality, that if we were just a bunch of cells, why would we need a moral nature? And yet we have a moral nature. We have a sense of right and wrong. This cannot be explained by evolution. This has to be from a moral creator who put that sense of morality within us. The argument from consciousness. Again, if we were just cells, why would we need self-consciousness? What would be the advantage of that, or where would it come from? Our consciousness is an indicator that there was a creator who was conscious, who put that consciousness within us. And the argument from desire or purpose, that people have an innate sense or a need to know that their life matters, that they have a purpose, that they're here for a reason. And that's a testimony of the fact that we are designed for God. God has a purpose for us, and He's put that eternity in our hearts, that sense of meaning or ultimate nature inside of us, and we know there's more. There's something in us that craves that. And then the argument from gradation to perfection. As we look at things, we can see there's a level of gradation from one thing to another, that something is more perfect, more right, more the ideal than something else. So there must be a perfect, and that perfect is God. We looked at experiential arguments, the arguments from miracles, reports of miracles and supernatural works of power, such as healings and events that are inexplicable from natural causes, have occurred throughout history. These experiences testify to the existence of a being who can act outside the normal laws of nature, God. The argument from personal experience. History is full of the testimonies of people who claim to have had a personal encounter or experience with God. These experiences are evidence that God exists. We looked at historical arguments. Because history is not repeatable, we have to rely on credible witnesses and artifacts to establish that events really occurred, and that reporting is reliable. The best witnesses must live at the time in which events occurred. They must have been on site when events reported took place. They must accurately record the details of the event, and their testimony must be accurately copied and transmitted to us. Credible testimony of the Scriptures. We've discussed the credible testimony of the Scriptures. They are a chronicle of actual events recorded by people who lived at the time those events occurred, or who interviewed eyewitnesses. Second, we can clearly demonstrate the reliability of the transmission of the biblical documents. Third, archaeology has repeatedly confirmed that the amazing historical accuracy of the biblical record. Fourth, the scriptures that we have in our Bibles meet these standards to a measure far beyond any other ancient writing. We can have a very high degree of confidence that what they record actually took place. Another line of evidence. Today we're going to introduce a new line of evidence that supports both the divine initiative of God behind the biblical declarations and the astounding confirmation of these statements in history. There's another whole line of evidence that's sprinkled throughout the Old and New Testament scriptures, which further sets them apart as uniquely inspired by God. This other line of evidence is the amazing fulfillment of biblical prophecy. None like this. No other religious tradition has anything like the clearly demonstrable examples of prophecy that we find in our Bibles. None. This is distinctly presented by God himself as a clear test of his authorship. God made a clear point to differentiate himself from other so-called gods by this very fact. No one else has been able to accurately declare the future centuries before those events would take place. Here's a challenge from God. Isaiah 41, 21 to 24. Present your case, Yahweh says. Bring forward your strong arguments, the King of Jacob says. Let them bring forth and declare to us what is going to take place. As for the former events, declare what they were, that we may consider them and know their outcome, or announce to us what is coming. Declare the things that are going to come afterward, that we may know that you are gods. Indeed, do good or evil, that we may anxiously look about us in fear together. Behold, you are of no account, and your work amounts to nothing. No other God. Thus says Yahweh, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and there is no God besides me. And who is like me? Let him proclaim and declare it. Yes, let him recount it to me in order, from the time that I established the ancient nation. And let them declare to them the things that are coming, and the events that are going to take place. Do not tremble and do not be afraid. Have I not long since announced it to you and declared it? And you are my witnesses. Is there any God besides me? Or is there any other rock? I know of none. That's Isaiah 44, 6 to 8. Announcing the future from the past. Declare and set forth your case. Indeed, let them consult together. Who has announced this from of old? Who has long since declared it? Is it not I, Yahweh? There is no other God besides me, a righteous God and a Savior. There is none except me. Isaiah 45, 21. Declaring the end from the beginning. Remember the former things long past, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things which have not been done, saying, my purpose will be established and I will accomplish all my good pleasure, calling a bird of prey from the east, the man of my purpose from a far country. Truly I have spoken, truly I will bring it to pass. I have planned it, I surely will do it. Isaiah 46, 9 to 11. God is very clearly making the declaration that he alone can tell the future from the past and make it happen. We have three examples from Genesis of God's prophecy coming to pass. The first one is in Genesis 3:15. The seed of the woman will strike or crush the head of the serpent, but he will strike him on his heel. The serpent, who later is identified as Satan in Revelation 12, had succeeded in luring our first parents into sin, which also introduced death into the world. Humankind forfeited their majesty and authority and became slaves of sin and victims of death. The prophecy speaks of the defeat and demise of the serpent. The implication is that this will also result in the deliverance of humanity from his power. Both of the actions expressed in this prophecy describe a fatal strike, a head-crushing blow to the serpent, and a poisonous strike to the seed of the woman. The victorious seed of the woman. In all of history, there has only been one who has been uniquely born of a virgin, a genuine seed of a woman. Jesus, whose mission in life was to save his people from their sin, according to Matthew 1:21. He is the only one who has made the claim to have defeated the serpent by means of his own death and lived again to tell about it. The serpent's deadly strike was the crushing blow. This prophecy was fulfilled in history by the crushing blow of Jesus' death on the cross for humanity, where he paid for the sin of humankind. The serpent, Satan, succeeded in bringing Jesus to death, but in so doing, he unwittingly set up his own demise. Jesus rose again, and Satan lost his authority over all who are in Christ, including even the power of death itself. Second line of prophecy from Genesis is God's promise to Abram in Genesis 12:1-3. Yahweh called Abram to leave his country, his relatives, his family of origin, and go where he would show him. He promised Abram, I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Additional information about Abraham. Abram was no one special. He had done nothing outstanding to set him apart from all other people. Yet Yahweh took the initiative to extend this offer to him. Over the following chapters, Yahweh gave more information. Abram would have innumerable descendants, like the stars in the sky or as the sand on the seashore. He would become the father of many nations. It would be through his seed that all the families of the earth would be blessed, and that seed will possess the gate of his enemies. The fulfillment of Abrahamic prophecy. Today, the name of Abraham, God changed it from Abram to Abraham in Genesis 17, is one of the most famous and revered names in human history. Literally billions of people look to him as an example and hero of faith, including half of the people alive today in this world. His physical descendants have literally become innumerable in the millions, but his spiritual descendants number many times more. Abrahamic blessings. Many, many blessings have come to the world through the ingenuity and creativeness of his descendants. His seed is Jesus, prefigured in the ram provided as a substitute for Isaac on Mount Moriah in Genesis 22. Through him, the blessing of salvation would come to those who trust in God's provision through the lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. People both from the physical offspring of Abraham and also people from other nations who embrace the faith of Abraham in God's promise. This seed defeated his enemy, and the gates of Hades will not be able to stand against his people, gathered from the nations, the church. He now holds the keys of death and of Hades. Any other like Abraham? Is there any other personage, lineage, or nation that has had such a plain prophetic declaration of an expansive worldwide destiny that has spanned the centuries, is clearly traceable, and is still openly fulfilled and worked out right before our eyes? No. Just think of that. What had Abraham done? Was he a great general, a conqueror, a powerful ruler, a wealthy and powerful businessman? No. Abraham believed God, and God fulfilled his prophetic word. Third prophecy from the book of Genesis is from Genesis 12:7, that God would give the land of Canaan to Abraham's offspring. God made this promise several times in the book of Genesis and many times after the book of Genesis. This is an amazing prophecy fulfilled in history repeatedly. God brought the people of Israel, the descendants of Abraham, into the land of Canaan on three separate occasions. First, through the conquering of the land by Joshua after the Exodus in 1400 BC. Second, by the regathering of the exiled remnant to the land after their 70-year captivity in Babylon in 538 BC. And third, in the return of the Jews from all around the world and the reestablishing of the state of Israel in 1948. What other nation? What other nation has a history like this? What other nation has been removed from their ancestral home, lived for hundreds and even thousands of years in other lands, only to be restored to their ancestral homeland and come to form again their own independent country? There is no other similar story. This is the hand of God fulfilling his prophesied promise. When Moses wrote the book of Genesis before 1400 BC. He reported what had been spoken to Adam and Eve by God in the Garden of Eden thousands of years before. This account would have been passed down orally for many generations. The story of the seed of the woman would have seemed as little more than a curiosity, a prophetic hope. No person would have come up with such a thing. It was a strange saying. It was preserved and passed down because God said it. And it was indeed understood to be a prophecy of a future deliverer. When Moses wrote, Abraham was indeed the forefather of the nation of Israel. But at the time Moses wrote, virtually no one else would have heard of him. In fact, others referred to Israel, not Abraham. His name had not yet become associated with renown or recognition, and his descendants had not yet done much to bless the nations. They were viewed as runaway slaves, people without a country. Who would have even heard of Abraham except for these homeless vagabonds? When Moses wrote, the land of Canaan was occupied by a number of independent city-states ruled by kings. They were well-established and strongly fortified walled cities. The thought that this wandering menagerie of people were going to take this land would have seemed impossible, even laughable. In fact, when the Israelites were told to go up and take the land, they initially refused. Yet God had told Moses that he would give them this land. So Moses recorded this promise, believing that God would do as he said. His faith was strong, even if the people doubted. When Moses wrote, when you look at the setting of Moses' life, it is amazing that he recorded what he did. But that is precisely the point. These prophetic claims, these grandiose dreams, were not the imagination of the man Moses or any of the people involved in the historical record. They were claims, declarations, and promises made by God himself. Moses was just the recorder and reporter. what God was doing. God was declaring the end from the beginning. He was putting his unique mark upon his revelation and his activities in history. He was telling these people who were everyday people like you and me what he was intending to do in the future with them or with their descendants. He was sharing these promises and prophecies because he was looking for those who would believe him and follow him. This has always been his purpose, to find those who would trust in him and obey him.